Hey, thanks for clicking. I'm Grace, and this is where I share any opinions I may have about any of the literature I may read. If you're looking for a cozy, sort of rambly type channel to have on in the background of your space, I'd recommend becoming a regular here. Today, I'll be catching you up on some recent literary news. Today will be a bit of a mishmash of what I could find that's been happening in September. So, I hope you'll bear with me as I'm still figuring out how to do this. I wanted to start today's video by bringing your attention to some September releases. I personally have not read any of these titles, but I don't know about you. I have a very tailored algorithm. It gives me what I like. It's fun, but there's definitely a consistent theme, which is great sometimes. Other times, I'd like to be able to step out of my bubble. I'd like to read a book that isn't exactly like the 3 books that I read before it, you know? Don't get me wrong, I love my comfort reads. I love picking up a book purely for fun and enjoyment. But sometimes I also enjoy stepping out of my routine and picking up a new perspective, or reading a book that maybe I wouldn't normally pick up and then getting to process that through from the perspective of like someone who would enjoy this book. Also, I just want this to be a channel where we cover a diverse range of topics. So, all that being said, let's get to this list. I've selected 3 titles that I think are all very different, but they were all released in September. This first book is called Entitlement by Rumaan Alam. He actually has 3 other books. One of them was recently made into a movie, and I will go ahead and link his website, his official website, down in the description box if you're interested in learning more about his works or even himself as an author. That'll be down there for you. This book was published September 17th, just earlier this month, and this is what it's about. Brooke wants. She isn't in need, but there are things she wants. A sense of purpose, for instance. She wants to make a difference in the world, to impress her mother along the way, to spend time with friends, and secure her independence. Her job assisting an octogenarian billionaire in his quest to give away a vast fortune could help her achieve many of these goals. It may inspire new desires as proximity to wealth turns out to be nothing less than transformative. What is money really but a kind of belief? Taut, unsettling, and alive to the seductive distortions of money, Entitlement is a riveting tale for our new Gilded Age, a story that confidently considers questions about need and worth, race and privilege, philanthropy and generosity, passion and obsession. It is a provocative, propulsive novel about the American imagination. This is definitely one of those books that I would pick up more out of curiosity of what other people enjoy than because I think I would genuinely enjoy it. But it sounds very interesting. The blurb that I just read is actually from Goodreads, and I scrolled down just out of curiosity to read a few of the comments or reviews further down the page. The next title I'm going to bring your attention to is actually a collection of essays, and it's titled We're Alone, and it's written by Edwidge Danticat. This collection was actually published earlier in the month, September 3rd, but I think that it has some current relevance. This is what it's about. Tracing a loose arc from Edwidge Danticat's childhood to the COVID-19 pandemic and recent events in Haiti, the essays gathered in We're Alone include personal narrative, reportage, and tributes to mentors and heroes such as Toni Morrison, Paul Marshall, Gabriel Garcia Marquez, and James Baldwin that explore several abiding environmental catastrophe, the traumas of colonialism, motherhood, and the complexities of resilience. From hurricanes to political violence, from her days as a new student at a Brooklyn elementary school, knowing little English, to her account of a shooting hoax at a Miami mall, Danticat has an extraordinary ability to move from the personal to the global and back again. Danticat is an irresistible presence on the full of heart, outrage, humor, clear thinking, and moral questioning, while reminding us of the possibilities of community. And so, We're Alone is both a fearsome admission and an intimate invitation. We're alone now, we can talk. We're Alone is a book that asks us to think through some of the world's intractable problems while deepening our understanding of one of the most significant novelists at work today. Edwidge Danticat does have quite a portfolio, and just like the previous one, I'll be including her main website in the description box below, where you can look through her other titles. She has 7 young adult and children's literature titles, 6 nonfiction titles, which this is included in that number, and 8 fiction titles to choose from. The third and final title that I'm going to bring your attention to today is Nexus: A Brief History of Information Networks from the Stone Age to AI. And this is brought to you by Yuval Noah Harari. And let's read what it's about. We are living through the most profound information revolution in human history. To understand it, we need to understand what has come before. We have named our species Homo sapiens, or the wise human. But if humans are so wise, why are we doing so many self-destructive things? In particular, why are we on the verge of committing ecological and technological suicide? Humanity gains power by building large networks of cooperation, but the easiest way to build and maintain these networks is by spreading fictions, fantasies, and mass delusions. In the 21st century, AI may form the nexus for a new network of delusions that could prevent future generations from even attempting to expose its lies and fictions. However, history is not deterministic, and neither is technology. By making informed choices, we can still prevent the worst outcomes. Because if we can change the future, then why waste time discussing it? Another nonfiction title, but it piqued my interest, so I included it. Yuval Noah Harari also has some other titles, 3 other titles to be specific. One of them was actually made into a separate graphic novel, and he has a children's book series called The Unstoppable Us. 2 have been published so far with the titles How Humans Took Over the World and Why the World Isn't Fair, which I thought were interesting titles for books that are geared towards children. So I will probably be checking these out for my own personal curiosity. And not to worry, I will be including his website in the description box as well. Moving on, we have more literary awards news. Earlier this month, mid-September, the National Book Awards long list was released. The National Book Foundation was founded in 1989, and the mission of the National Book Foundation is to celebrate the best literature published in the United States, expand its audience, and ensure that books have a prominent place in our culture. Submissions are made from mid-March to mid-May of this year. Once the submissions are deemed eligible, then they go to the judges. There's a whole panel for each section. Then by mid-September, the long list is released, out of which is then chosen the 5 finalists. So what we have today is the long list, and the winners will be announced on October 1st, so just 2 days after this video is published. So I will likely be talking about this again next week. As I mentioned, there are 5 categories, and that's 10 titles for each category, so I am not going to go through each title on the long list, but I will include a link down below where you can sort through any of those titles yourself. The 5 categories are fiction, nonfiction, poetry, translated literature, and young people's literature. So, if your TBR is looking a little low, you might find something worth reading in this list. And the final topic that I want to cover today is actually an article that I read this week that I thought others might enjoy. Yes, I will be linking it down below. This article is published by The Millions on September 19th, and the author is Philip Graham. I'm not familiar with any of his works previous to this, but now I really want to read this book. which is a problem because there's only 1,000 copies scattered throughout the US, which pretty rude. The article talks about Philip Graham's decision to not publish this book through a publishing house and instead to go on a road trip with his wife and deliver these independently printed books to little free libraries across the US. He even shares a little bit about the development of this book as he wrote it over the course of 30 years, and of course why he decided not to publish it the same way that he had published his other books. I found this super interesting and I definitely want to read the book now. He has created a digital version that you can access in a link that I'll put in the description. And he's turned it into a subscription-based serialization. I super recommend the article. It's not that long. I found it very engaging and I'm going to read the book as well at some point. One final thing before I go. I know I mentioned library apps in my last episode, and I don't plan to do this for every video that I make, but I recently discovered that I can access almost any magazine through Libby in particular, and I've really enjoyed getting to try out different magazines without having to actually pay for something that I don't even know if I want it. I've already been able to read through several magazines. Some of them I decided are not worth investing in a physical copy for myself, but a couple I did so thoroughly enjoy. I enjoyed the artwork that I could see on the screen so much that I wanted to see it with my own eyes, and seriously considering investing in a subscription to these magazines. So if you are looking for a way to expand your reading options, I am going to once again recommend you use your library app, check out what's available, and yeah, I think those are all of the news updates I have for you today. I'd love to hear your comments down below. Did any of this pique your interest? Do you think you'll read any of the titles I mentioned, or do you subscribe to any magazines? I feel like it's something that's not as common as it used to be. Let me know. Hope to see you around.